The Switch 2 is out, and with it, Mario Kart World. And everyone's favorite item from the previous game has returned. Coins. And they have returned in force. We got coin items, coins on the track, coin boxes, coin shells. Heck, the main collectible in this game are stickers you can plaster on your cart to show off your racer's sponsors. Look, I get that these races are basically the Mushroom Kingdom's national sport, but this degree of selling out is absurd. I refuse to participate. That's right, today we take a stand and find out, is it possible to beat Mario Kart World without touching a single coin? The mode we're interested in today is Grand Prix mode. Specifically, we want to beat all 8 cups in the game on 150cc without increasing the coin counter at all. Though that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be at 0 the whole time. You see, you start each Grand Prix with 5 coins in your pocket already. And I can't blame literal princesses and the rest of the aristocracy for not being broke, so we'll let that slide. What we won't let slide are picking up any coins during the race, whether they are pre-placed on the track, come from an item, burst out of an opponent when they get hit by a shell, or are even our own coins that we drop upon getting hit ourselves. Collect any of those coins and it's game over. Gotta restart the cup. Oh, and one more thing. We also have to place 4th or better on the first 3 races of every cup. That's because if you finish any lower, you start the next race with some extra coins in your pocket. One could argue this isn't any different than the 5 coins you start the Prix with, but since our actions can actually affect if we receive these coins, it's our duty, in my opinion, to evade them to the best of our abilities. So, let's get started with Mario on Mushroom Cup and see what hazards we face. Mario Bros. Circuit introduces us to one of this game's key gimmicks, rail grinding. Thanks to the expanded racer count, 24 as opposed to the usual 12, these tracks tend to be wider and also have a lot of extra routes you can take through them, usually thanks to the rails. Use a charge jump, which, by the way, is basically a drift while you're going straight. Anyway, this charge jump is the go-to way to get atop the rail and start riding it. You can also just do them while you're going straight, but as I explained in this short, that's not actually any faster. Granted, I found that out after I completed all of the gameplay for this challenge, so prepare for a bit of cringe in the gameplay department, but regardless, we'll do our best. Now, as for the rails on this track specifically, they are useless because they all have coins on them. So we'll just be sticking to the road. Of course, the road isn't entirely safe either. There are coins placed in a few of the track's corners, and honestly, they're pretty easy to avoid. With only a couple try runs getting used to the game and racing lines, we beat this track coinless and can drive on over to Crown City. Which brings us to the second main gimmick of this game, the open world. Since all the tracks actually exist in a seamless open world, we have to drive ourselves to the next track. This time, that route is a wide open highway without any particularly difficult coins to dodge. But if these intermissions progress in difficulty over time, we may be in for a rude awakening, as their existence basically triples the total length of track we need to contend with. If these races had all just been 3 laps around a track, then, well, once you figure out how to approach 1 lap, that's most of the legwork done for approaching the other 2. But now that each leg is a unique layout and challenge, mastering the approach for 1 leg does not mean you're prepared for the other 2 at all. That being said, the trickiest bits here occur after arriving at Crown City. This part with the solar panel roofs isn't the toughest to execute, but you do need to go into it with a plan to avoid the rails here by zigzagging. After that, there are a couple corners that you've got to take either on the inside or outside to avoid the coins in the middle. But the toughest obstacle is right here. A big circle of coins right after a jump. Taking the jump on the outside is scary and perilous, but with a mid-air trick, you should have the maneuverability to land safely on the other side. After that, you've got some more coins off a ramp to go between, and then the race is finished. Definitely more difficult than Mario Bros. Circuit, but certainly still doable. Next, we're headed to Whistletop Summit. The approach is a bit tougher than the prior ones. There are coins placed on narrower bends here, which can be especially annoying if you're stuck in the fray of the middle places. There's also this train yard, which isn't super coin dense, but taking the faster routes does make you flirt quite closely with those golden discs. Remember, we are trying to win, not just complete these courses, so speed is important. Keeping that in mind, this track has a lot of rails, and most of them are fairly coin poor, so they're actually pretty safe to use. The issue is that they're often slower than the normal track. The final corner in particular is harsh. These coins on the road are pretty tightly packed and hard to reliably dodge. There is a rail you can take instead with no coins, but it's considerably slower. Still though, it's probably our best shot. We often come in second or third in this track due to our slow finish, but it beats touching a coin and getting an instant game over. We'll just have to make it up at DK Spaceport. This approach has basically two turns which are difficult. Honestly, if you got a mushroom when you get to them, these are corners that I love to cut. As for the spaceport itself, take this corner in the middle to avoid the bouncy things, trick off these ramps, then take the low road, wall jump aggressively, then stay out of the middle, and you'll be fine. So yeah, that's the Mushroom Cup. Pretty easy, right? No, this took me 4 hours to beat, as opposed to usually like 15 minutes. I've mostly been describing the track layouts here, but don't forget this is a Mario Kart. Items are flying everywhere, especially if you're in the middle of the pack. And whenever someone gets hit by an item, they spew coins all over the place. And that's before considering the question mark blocks and golden shells whose entire purpose is to spread coins all over the track. And even that's before considering the fact that red and blue shells at the wrong time can completely sink your chances of decent placements. Oh, and of course, as I alluded to in the beginning of this video, coins exist as an item. So if you're in first, second, or third and you get a coin, then congratulations, you can't use items anymore until either Boo steals it from you, or you get hit by lightning. Until then, you're completely defenseless. Honestly, one of the most important strategic considerations here isn't so much how to drive on the tracks themselves, but is using triple and golden mushrooms at the right time during the intermission to be able to cut out a lot of the track and get out of the coin spewing chaos in the middle places. But regardless, we did make it. Now it's time for Luigi to take on the Flower Cup. It all starts with Desert Hills, which is basically fine as long as you don't have coins bestowed upon you by your reeling opponents. But then the approach to Shy Guy Bazaar is a little more complicated. The cave section has a couple lines of coins that you're going to want to take a quick off-road detour to avoid. Then make sure you don't jump on any cars after the flying section, because apparently that results in robbery. Then the bazaar itself is pretty rough. This corner can be tough to sneak through unless you're willing to just take the long way around. Then there are coins amongst these ramps, which are very easy to hit by mistake, especially in a crowded race. But presume you can get through all of that and avoid any other random strays. Next up is Wario Stadium. This approach tends to be simpler than the last one, barring anything unexpected, that is. Though speaking of items, let's talk about item strategy. The major worry we have, especially once you're getting into higher places, is the coin item. Once you grab one of those, you're defenseless for the rest of the race. That means, as we rise to about 4th place or above, we need to be extremely cautious with our item use. Spending a red shell or a mushroom to rise a single placement in these positions simply isn't worth it most of the time because of the risk that item will be replaced with a completely worthless coin that you'll be stuck with, potentially for the rest of the race. So yeah, once we've risen to the top, we really just have to rely on driving skill to get up to 1st place. Well, that and the occasional blue shell. Speaking of which, while we're not picky about our items, mushrooms are actually the best item to have in 1st place. Firstly, you don't have to use them in response to getting hit if you don't want to. And they can't get blown up by the blue shell. But even better, you can actually use them to dodge the blue shell, which in this game is trivially easy. And then of course, if you still have one or two by the last stretch of the final lap, you can use them to basically assure your victory. And actually, triple or golden mushrooms are usually the best item to have further back in the pack too. Seriously, almost every intermission features several corners you can cut across with triple or golden mushrooms to pass, like, literally half of the other racers. They're that good, trust me. Anyway, back to Wario Stadium. There's no one super dangerous spot here, but several of the corners do have moderately difficult coin placements, so you've got to be on your A game the whole time through. The biggest danger occurs if you lose your cool on this last corner. Remember, even if folks are catching up with you, survival trumps winning. And if you do survive, it's off to Airship Fortress. The intermission starts off sorta ugly thanks to the coins in this pipe. From there, we lose a lot of ground in the storm drain thanks to the coins being placed on the speed boost, effectively keeping us from using them. As we enter the war zone, this chain chomp narrows the usable track considerably, pushing you towards the coins. Then the track proper has some of the most annoying coin placements we've seen yet, specifically on its deck. Luckily, you can jump over these if you ride the rail just right. From there, the fire section looks scarier than it is. And this last corner, I mean, it wasn't pretty, but having won the last 3 races, 4th here was enough to secure victory in the Cup. And how sweet the victory was after 7.5 hours of, well, that sort of stuff. Next up is Peach versus the Star Cup. It all starts with DK Pass, a relatively narrow track flanked by snow on one side and a cliff on the other, as well as coins in the middle. Those coins are very easy to get jostled into, especially on the first lap. But clear that course and you're off to Starview Peak's gentle curves and Sky High Sunday's oval. Honestly, I feel like those 2 courses should have been harder than they actually turned out to be. And all that led to Wario Shipyard, a track taking place on the open sea. And I actually cleared this one coinless on my very first try and won the Cup as a result. Actually, all of Star Cup only took me 40 minutes to beat, so it was pretty easy. Hopefully that becomes a trend going forward as we move on to Shell Cup with Waluigi, where I discover that maybe I don't actually like water as much as I had thought. Koopa Troopa Beach is simple enough, if chaotic due to basically being this game's baby park, although a lot of the jumps you'd normally use to gain speed are littered with coins. Still though, this one's not too bad. The road to Farway Oasis is also alright, but these stupid armadillos hit me every single time, I swear. Once you get to the actual track, you've got to take this ramp on the absolute edge. Then this flowing water alters your controls just enough to mess with you on this corner. And then the final corner has a really annoying formation of coins. This is another one where you'll find yourself sacrificing speed for caution at the end, and possibly getting passed as a result. But if you do make it through, next up is the journey to Crown City, featuring Totally Not the Golden Gate Bridge. And boy did I struggle with this line of coins. They're so close together that they're basically impossible to squeeze between, at least reliably. You can ride on the sidewalk instead, but that's not completely safe, and is considerably slower. Or, you can just take the median. I did not realize that for like 3 hours. Anyway, once you're actually in Crown City, this last corner is about the only thing to worry about. And yeah, once I figured that out, I headed over to Peach Stadium and bested the Cup almost immediately. Now for Daisy to take on the Banana Cup, starting with Peach Beach. And this time with the boat car. Maybe that'll help. And honestly, this might be the hardest opening track we've faced yet, because it is a true one-lap track. This is actually tougher than the Intermission Plus track setup, or a 3-lap track, because it's 3 full laps of unique content, triple what a 3-lap track demands you learn, and has the same density of challenge as a legitimate track the whole way through, as opposed to the generally simpler designs of the intermission segments. From this challenge's perspective, it's the worst of both worlds. Now as for the highlights here, the first lap is actually not too bad. Then these corners going into the resort leave you to decide between how risky you're willing to drive to cut as tight a corner as possible without touching the coins. The next part is challenging in the traditional, it's not entirely clear what route through this relatively open space is the fastest sense. It's not helped by coins atop some key ramps. I ended up settling on this route in the end. Finally, there is this open water segment, where the key question becomes, how can you take advantage of these ramps without grabbing the coins they lead to? This diagonal approach worked for me. Salty Speedway was next, and honestly had the simplest approach yet. I ignored the road entirely and just sailed across the open sea to get there. The track itself is tough. The amount of corners you have to take with water controls amidst coins is a bit much. In particular, this corner near the end usually slowed me down significantly. But you can make it through, and head for Dino Jungle. And let me tell you, the struggle here is all in the approach. I mean, just look at this segment where you're forced to ford several waterfalls. The track itself is no walk in the Jurassic Park either, but honestly none of these coin locations are particularly devious. The question mark block ruins had a lot of coins that I slowed down quite a bit to avoid. But luckily I got a mushroom going into the last corner, which catapulted me from 11th to 4th, giving me enough points to take first place in the Cup after about 3 hours of attempts. Now Bowser is going to challenge the Leaf Cup. And I think I found a new hardest opening track. Cheap Falls asks you to dodge a wealth of coins as you careen down some whitewater rapids. Success here is reliant on knowing when you have to give up a drift opportunity in favor of just dodging coins by hitting the narrow gaps between them perfectly. There's also this ramp whose coins you can only avoid by riding the rail leading directly up to it, which your opponents sometimes take issue with. And also, any coins that fall into the water move with the current, adding an extra wrinkle to your coin dodging gameplay whenever you find yourself in the fray in the middle of the pack. Oh, and this corner at the end is extremely easy to mess up, especially if you're in a desperate struggle for the lead in the last lap. Yeah, the chaos on this track cannot be overstated. It took me an hour and a half just to beat this track satisfactorily, and even see what was in store for us next. As it turns out, next was Dandelion Depths, a much easier track. So easy that I aced it on my first try. Scratch that. I actually got hit by a blue shell in the last corner, putting me in 5th place. Just low enough to be awarded a coin going to the next track. Back to Cheap Falls it is. 25 minutes of Cheap Falls later, I got my second crack at it. And this time I secured the victory I deserved. Next up was Boo Cinema, which had basically no difficult coins. I won easily. Now I've just got to beat Dry Bones Burnout on my first try. Otherwise it's back to Cheap Falls for who knows how long. There we go! It wasn't pretty, and I owe Baby Rosalind a huge debt of thanks for this moment. But it worked. Good riddance, Leaf Cup, or really good riddance, Cheap Falls, specifically. Now for the racer you've all been waiting for. Cow taking on the Lightning Cup. Fittingly enough, it all starts with Moo Meadows, which I've got no complaints about. Sure, sometimes you get obliterated by a blue shell, knocked into a coin you dropped, but this layout is easy. Honestly, I have no idea where this track is in the Lightning Cup. I guess maybe they're more so sorted by geography than difficulty in this game? Regardless, now it's on to the next step of the chocolate milk supply chain, Choco Mountain. This is where things get difficult. The approach is pretty tame, and so is most of the track, but this final corner is anything but. Firstly, it is hard to dodge both the coins and the boulders. Usually I pick the boulder. Then sometimes this corner just decides to drop rocks on you for a quick FPK, and even if you survive that, good luck evading these coins without having to go off-road a bit. Put all together, this may be the toughest final corner we've faced, but once you surmount it, it's off to the body of it, Toad's Factory. And honestly, outside of the standard setbacks that can happen anywhere, I don't have a bad thing to say about Toad's Factory. It's sort of odd. I mean, looking at the obstacles on paper, they should be pretty tricky, but I've been dealing with them for a decade and a half, so yeah. Basically, I have home field advantage here. Now, I don't have home field advantage when we're dealing with our Milk's last mile delivery at Bowser's Castle. The approach is actually pretty easy. The castle itself isn't hard. I'd say these coins here are the worst it has to offer. I even became roast beef to avoid them. And that's only one of several threatening corners. But the others don't require such drastic action. So after 3 hours, that's the Lightning Cup cleared. Now to end things off, Rosalina is ready to take on the Special Cup. It all starts with Acorn Heights, which has basically no difficult coins to dodge, and is a routine victory. Mario Circuit, on the other hand, is a much narrower track with coins scattered on just about every corner. Not to mention having more difficult and frequent corners in the first place. This is the course in this cup that often ends our attempts. But after a lot of practice, you'll be taking those corners like a champ and be on your way to Peach Stadium. Which is pretty far away as it turns out. While the track's obstacles aren't too overbearing, it's just a lot of road for something to go wrong on. Oh, and speaking of things that can go wrong, I should tell you about a little remedy I came up for one of our worst things that can happen to us in this challenge. I'm actually a little embarrassed it took me this long to come up with this tactic, but falling behind with a coin as your item isn't actually an immediate death sentence due to being stuck at the back of the pack with an unusable item. All you have to do to rectify the situation is drive off the track so Lacto will fish you back on and take all your items in the process. Now, I wouldn't try this well ahead, but when you've fallen behind, it's almost a no-brainer because it lets you actually use items again, which is kind of important for catching up. Anyways, those sorts of tactics helped us to get all the way to Rainbow Road, the longest length of true track in the game, and one that doesn't pull its punches in layout or coin placement. It's taken 7.5 hours just to get this opportunity. And with only a 2-point lead in the cup, merely finishing will not be enough. We have to play to win. And there you have it. All 8 cups beaten without collecting any coins. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, there's plenty more where that came from. We've got loads of challenges on other Nintendo games on the channel, and we're going to have several more Mario Kart World videos coming out soon. So, if you want to see more of that, be sure to subscribe, ring the notification bell, and look out for more. I'd also like to thank my patrons, such as these fine folks on screen, especially my $15 tier patrons, Alex Arctling, Ashton Says, and Essenix. But anyways, until next time, I've been Simmercraft, and I'll catch you in the next video. Goodbye.